Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Renaissance Room Podcast. And in today's episode, we're just going to be chatting, this is going to give you guys a feel for what my my Patreon will be like. I'm super excited to just open up a space for really like a haven. It's just kind of following in line with my mentorship and everything. And it's funny because, I was sitting here thinking to myself and I'm like, would I call myself a leader? And I think for me, it's more so like a teacher. Like, I think that I feel like all the wisdom that God has bestowed upon me, I just have to pay it forward because it's things that I didn't know. And it's just a lot of things that I feel like young women didn't know, right? Especially today, you have so many people who go online and you want to check out these platforms, you want to go to them for wisdom and understanding, but sometimes people are online and, their heart may not be in the right place. It's very easy to get egotistical and high-minded when you jump on a podcast and you have viewers and you set that camera up and you're in your fresh fit and you're feeling good and you're dripped and so I completely get it, but I just want to create a space where we can just be authentic and there's not all the rah-rah. And, I feel very blessed. I feel like God has blessed me and I just want to be able to pay that forward. And so for me, I really believe that I've been given the gift of wisdom. So that's kind of how I serve and, my ministry. And so for me, that's how I roll. So that's just kind of like a snippet to let you guys know that the Patreon is coming and that's what we're going to be pretty much talking about. And I can't wait to join. I can't wait to meet with you guys. And, I've always wanted to kind of set it up to where I can interact with the people who are on the other end of my podcast and the people who listening to, what it is that I have to say, or you maybe want to join a community and we talk about certain things. I know I see a lot of programs that are oftentimes centered around like business or relationships and all those different things. And, sure, I'll definitely, I'm not opening up a coaching session, right? I told you guys it'll be like testimonials, encouragement, just, I guess, more so lightheartedness, more that nurturing element. I don't know. But anyway, I was sitting here thinking about the TBTs I had posted on, and it's like, girl, I'm showing my age. That is so funny. I posted my TBTs on Instagram and it was me in Atlanta in the club. And, I remember I went to the Drake concert. I had so much fun. And it's so easy to slip into this space where you also can very easily fall into the trap of this youth obsessed culture, right? Especially as you're getting older, especially as you're maturing. You don't want to give it up. You start to feel like, oh my gosh, I'm still in my 20s. I'll talk to any person today and they'll be like, girl, you are still young. But it's funny because I don't feel old. I just more so feel mature, right? And I think a lot of times maturation is not seen as this beautiful process of completion, but rather than this old, ripe, bitter and just distasteful stage. And that's not true, right? We know that in nature, God has purpose for everything for its time. So when something is fully complete, it's great, it's perfect, right? It's like that beautiful supper, it's like nature, the flowers, it's completely perfect. And so it's definitely if you're in a space and you may be struggling with just maturing, just know that God makes everything beautiful in his time. So be willing to grow, be willing to be stretched, be willing to be used by God if that's what you desire. I can definitely say for me, being used by God it's just been the most beautifulest thing. I don't think I would do anything else in my life just because it brings me so much fulfillment. I feel like while y'all, it would be my sister FaceTiming me. I'm so sorry. And I'm using this to sorry. But I feel like God has really matured me and he's just made me such a better person. I feel like, serving with my life right now, I just wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change it for anything, and sorry, y'all, it's me having to respond. So that's the cool thing about the Anchor app, right? It's super easy to make a podcast. But let me refocus. So giving my life to Christ has definitely been very fulfilling. I'm always happy. I've always been a happy person. I think that I was born that way. My mother is probably one of the most beautiful women, just from a spiritual perspective. I think my mom is just one of the most upbeat, positive, happy person. That's just her, her MO, so I think for me, it could be that, could possibly be what was passed on to me. But, just being in this space in my life, it's there's just so much peace that comes from that. especially with all this craziness going on in the world. Like, I just feel like having my faith and having God in my life and just making that like the priority, making our relationship a priority. Like, for me, it's just helped me to really be able to walk this thing out, because it's so easy to be swayed today. It's so easy to look at your life and be like, dang, like, I am only 25. I should go and spend this money, or I should go and do these different things, or I should be striving to have these different things. And it's like, no, you're getting older. You should be gleaning from your experiences so you can pass on to your siblings, right? Like, or anybody in your community. I think we all have a little cousin whose mother may be in certain predicaments, who may have had a certain life. And we could talk about that too, because I know a lot of times people are so quick, and I don't want to say people, I think more so men. And I think that men come from a logical standpoint. And so there's not a lot of empathy when these conversations are had about women and motherhood and just everything that takes up there, right? And I'm not necessarily negating accountability on women's behalf, but what I am saying is, like, there are a lot of factors that sometimes play into whether or not a mother is able to be a good mother and nourish and nurture her children, even if that's her most purest and deepest desires and intentions, So that's just, but it's easy to kind of fall into that temptation and be like, I want to go and do these different things. But I posted those things, and it really was just to kind of show you guys just like a little bit of, I guess, like that testimonial type of piece. I don't know if anyone's listening actually follows me on Instagram, but if y'all do, y'all definitely seen that content. And and I think for me, it's important to let y'all know that I'm not like a high roller, like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm definitely, we doing good, you know what I mean? We doing good. But to more so say that, like, again, the faith walk and everything, it requires maturation. I remember people would try to come to me and talk to me about God and the Bible, and I used to be looking at these people like they're crazy. Now, it's funny because I feel like God always had his hands on me. I think about just my life and just looking back and just kind of seeing where God was always present. Even if I wasn't intentional in my relationship with him, he was always present. And I think even still in those moments, I've always felt him in my spirit. You know what I mean? Like, I've always found myself to have the fruits of the spirit as well. So I think it's no coincidence that my life turned out to be the way that it is today. But I say that to say, like, it's important to just for people to just kind of see that, because I know for me, when people was coming up to me talking about God, I was like, get out my face with that, because you being real hypocritical, you make it sound your life is so perfect. Like, I used to really be getting into them, but I realized, like, that's just the pruning. So it was important for me to share that, just to let people know that, like, nobody's perfect. Like, even when you see me now and you see what God did in my life, and like, the woman that I am today is not the woman that I was when I was young. And like, that all kind of ties into maturity as well, though, right? Like, not just from a spiritual perspective, but from a 21 to, like, you know what I mean? Like, and so when you have these content creators, they're doing all this stuff, it looks fun. You start to feel like, dang, like, I want to do the same thing, or I want to take the same approach. It's just important to just kind of realize your age. I know a lot of people say things like aren't age appropriate. I would definitely say, like, that's to each his own. It's about how you want to live your life. And, I know a lot of times it's just very easy to just kind of be in a space where it's like we can be judgmental. So I'm definitely not here to judge y'all. I mean, you do what you want to do for your life and what you feel like is age appropriate. But I think a lot of times we do have to acknowledge the fact that people are really trying to reclaim youth, because it looks like the hot commodity right now. But it's like, no, what's needed is more role models. What's needed is more women who are able to glean from their experiences and help ignite the way for younger generations. That was my entire thing. I literally remember 2018, I was praying for my purpose, and I wrote it down. I said, I want to be an inspiration for women, like, I want to, that's what I wanted to do. And so it's beautiful just to kind of see what God has done in my life. And he's still working on me, he's still working on me, but I'm very blessed for where I've come. And so I say that to say, at this point in my life, I'm very grateful, because when I look back, I realized, like, wow, I really had those experiences. It's funny because so much of it, Instagram was a thing, but it isn't as prevalent as it is today. Instagram, for me at least, it was always more so like a community type thing, like people I knew from around me, since the, it was like my area type of thing, family, and it's funny because it's like, it's now that way, but it never really was all these strangers. So the point that I'm making is, like, I used to be dripped and I probably could have went viral. No, I'm kidding. But I say that to say, like, it's just funny just to kind of see the progression of social media, and like how things just kind of like blow up and how things happen over time. You know what I mean? Because like when we were using social media, when I was posting, it was just like funny stuff. You know, I would say that was probably like my generation and my era. Like we would just post funny stuff. Like nobody was on social media with the filters, trying to get the perfect picture, trying to say the right thing. Like it wasn't about business. You know, now when you mix business with it and like profit, like, you know, nobody was making money on Instagram. That was not a thing. You may have seen one person on there selling some plates. But even still, you know, I would follow certain influencers who are popping now, and it's like they wasn't selling anything. They just was posting their pictures, posting their little Converse or Buddies or whatever was popping at the time. Like nobody was really making money on Instagram. And so it's like you got to see that. And now it's just different, you know. So I'm very grateful because I'm grateful for, I feel like that's the life I lived. And now I'm more so like in this space where it's like I'm matured and like I want completely different things out of life. But I'm grateful because I can honestly say I had those experiences. And I do think to an extent people who try to reclaim youth, they don't realize that it's a switch that has to go off. And when that switch is not going off, you may have to hit that switch on your own. You know, I will say empathetically, I do feel for people who may have had certain circumstances in life where they did not get to live that way. You know, I remember being 17 and I just went to Daytona with my friends. I had no money. And it's just like, it's funny when you sit and think about it as I say this today, but I was down there dead broke. It was giving SOS. I remember my dad was so he was going off, but it was funny. It was really funny, but I can't even say we had a good time. But the point that I'm making is like that irresponsibility, that spontaneity, you know, those are the things that are really associated with like childlike things, you know? So it's like, God talks about how it's in the Bible. I think it's Corinthians. And it's just, you know, when you were a child, you spoke as a child. But when you became, I say woman, but like, you know, you became a man, you put away childish things. And I think a lot of times adults will take those same kind of like characteristics into adulthood. And I'm not saying you have to be like super rigid. Like, I think a lot of times people think that it's the joy, right? I think that children oftentimes represent this sense of joy because there's that element of innocence. There's that element of like they're novice, like, you know. So I think a lot of people think that as you get older and you put away certain things, you don't go out, people be like, oh, you're boring. And, you know, it's funny. I was talking to someone recently and they actually said that like people may think I'm boring. And I can honestly say that I wouldn't say that it's boring, but I would say that it's not going to be appealing to someone who is 21. You know, it's probably not going to be appealing to someone who's 20, you know, and I think for the people who would say that it's boring, I don't think it's boring. I think the correct term for that is stable. You know, when you're young, it's highs and lows, baby. You're riding that thing out. Like you're fresh out of college. You're fresh out of high school. You don't even know anything about life. Like you're literally like, you know how you see those images and it says start here. That's you. Like you're not even at like the 20-yard meter, like whatever, 30 yards, 50 yards, or however that thing works around the track. Like you haven't even begun the race. So when you start to get a little bit older, you get out of your 20s, you've had those experiences, you are seeking stability because you're like, okay, I have an understanding of how adulthood works. And if you're blessed, or maybe you need to count your blessings, you realize that you had certain experiences and now it's time for that switch to go off because life is moving onward and upward and like you need to mature. I think that like maturity overall is just not something that is praised, you know, because it kind of falls into like this quote unquote adulthood, which is often illustrated as this mundane, this very like, you know, rudimentary routine type of lifestyle. And that's not true. I think adulting is great. You know, learning about finances, setting yourself up for success. It's like what you have to realize is, you guys, once you close the chapter of immaturity, you open the chapter of maturity and you step into creating the life that you want for yourself. You know, the thing about youth, a lot of people obsess about it, but it's like you have no control over your life, to be honest. Like, you know, because you don't have the resources, you don't have the wisdom. You just can't really put yourself in a position like you can when you're an adult. Because when you become an adult, it's like you take responsibility for your life and then you get to set the foundation. You can build on those pillars and you can make better decisions. And so I think that there's a lot more freedom, to be honest, and stability. I think stability is a really good foundation to have if you want anything sustainable. And I just want to encourage you guys, like, it's totally okay to close a chapter in your life, you know, and it doesn't mean that the next chapter in your life is going to be boring. I mean, the woman that I am today, doing the things that I do now at the level and the rate and the capacity at which I do them, I am very proud of myself. Like, I'm very grateful, and it feels good. Like, I'm actually excited to walk into my next, you know what I mean? I'm excited to grow older. I'm excited to mature. I'm excited to, you know what I mean? I look forward to those things. I look forward to being that lighthouse, you know, like, I can't tell you how many times I met women who they may not know, but, you know, I just felt very disappointed, you know, as a child, wanting to have some type of lighthouse, wanting to have some type of wisdom. And these women are out here moving like they're 21. And so I'm like, dang, like, where can I go? Where's my haven? Who can I talk to? Who can guide me about this? You know, like, so I don't think people realize that. And I think that maturity often comes with responsibility. And that responsibility is taking control of your life. You know, that responsibility is standing 10 toes and being sturdy within yourself and your choices. And you know what I mean? And I think that just costs something, you know, that costs. And sometimes it can be painful. You know, it's painful to sit in a space. Like, I had to learn for myself from childhood experiences and the whole nine. I had to go through the process of grieving what wasn't there, mourning what I wished was there. And like, now it's a more so like, you know what, it's that control, and it's that discipline to be like, you know what, I'm going to switch my mind. I'm not about to sit here and dwell over certain things that I cannot control anymore. It's like, nope, Satan, I'm not letting certain things have my mind. I'm not letting certain things, you know what I mean, tug at my heart, because I've already put that to rest. And so that takes a long time. And honestly, it's not pretty, you know, and, you know, when you're getting your finances together too, like, I wanted to touch on this at another episode. I might leave it for the Patreon. I don't know. But, you know, when you're getting your finances right and you're working on yourself, like, it's not easy to be down and out when you're young, or period, you're in your 20s. And it's like you are, you know, you have to go without, you know, you want to be popping, you want to be nice. And it's funny because, like, I think about just like call center money for the girls who know, the girls who know. Okay, period. Like, call center money ain't the same in 2023 like it was 2018, 2017, 2018. You had that call center money, you was making big bags. Today, girl, it's giving nickel and dime. Like, just because, you know, with the cost of everything, the cost of living. And that's why I always encourage you guys to live beneath your means and focus on developing a plan to make more money, to grow your money, to multiply your money. I think that you should be doing all those things until you meet your person, period. I know a lot of people talk about this whole independent thing. You got to know how to take care of yourself, period, because you just don't know. Like, you're single right now. So don't let this whole, like, oh, independent women, all this negative slander about independence go to your head. Or let me not say it that way. Just don't take it as truth, because you are in this world and it's just you right now. Like, you do need to be independent. You do need to figure out how you're about to take care of yourself, and you need to have the mindset like, how I'm about to take care of myself for the rest of my life. And, you know, in relationships, there's compromise, and like, God will be with you and God will guide and steward you over that next phase in your life. But if you are single and you're sitting around like, I don't want to pursue certain things because of a man, or you're feeling like, I'm going to wait on a man, it's not to say you don't need a man. Y'all know I don't like that. I love men. I think men are great. But that's not your story. That's not your reality. And you need to figure out as a woman how to take care of yourself. And I think as a woman, it's me, girl. I'm over here parched. As a woman, you know, you have to realize that you'll feel a lot better within yourself if you can take care of yourself before you rely on anybody else to take care of you. You know, there's just a certain freedom that you have as a woman. Y'all know we like to spend the money. Okay, one thing about a woman, we're going to spend a bag. Okay, so it's like, you know, whatever that may be for you. And it's been a very interesting journey when I even just think about my journey with finances and just, you know, going without those really, really hard seasons and having to make do because I didn't want to dwell, right? Like, I do think that if you sit in misery and all that stuff for too long, it just creates this big mess, and it just becomes this whole thing. And, you know, nobody wins from that, right? So there's just been, it's been a very interesting journey, and I'm very grateful, and I just look forward to sharing my testimony. God willing, whenever He's ready, when he tell me to hit play, okay, you guys, I'm so excited because I'm just very blessed. You know, I'm very blessed. Like, I've always wanted to be the woman that I saw, but I didn't know what she was like. I didn't know what her character was like. I didn't know, but I just saw a representation of her that I had never seen, you know, around before. It was like she was very rare, and like, I just wanted to become a lighthouse, you know, and like, I'm just very grateful. Like, I want to give God the glory for my story, of course, you know. But Yeah, so I can't remember, like, I don't know if I had a title for this podcast episode, but definitely stay tuned. I'll definitely be checking in regards to the Patreon, and I'm going to end there, and I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast episode. Hope you found it insightful. Peace.